So for step 14, the damper assembly, this step we're actually going to be doing the front dampers and we're going to be working on the rear dampers. So I've pulled together all of the hardware that we're going to need for this step, and we're going to work on the front dampers first. So I've pulled together the parts that we're going to need for this first step. So I'll set the camera up and let's put this together. The only other comment I would make is you can see that in the big bag there's these rubber boots, and you can see that you have to cut them to size. So I've already cut the front ones to size, which was pretty easy. Just use a X-Acto knife or something like that when you're placing this on here, and just measure it out and just slice. So that works out quite well. So again, I'll just set this up and let's start building the front dampers. So to start this off, let's just grab one of our cylinders. They want you to grab one of the BB4 shafts. We're going to stick that through the hole. Then we're going to take one of our springs, which will be this one here. You'll notice that there are two kinds. One is a much more spaced out spring and the other's tighter. You want the smaller one, which is the more spaced together. And technically you can tell on the diagram that that's a bit more of a tighter roll. So we'll take that one, stick that on there. Then we'll take the end, which is F4, and we're going to screw that into there. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to hold on to one end, grab our screwdriver, get it into the hole there, and spin. And you're going to notice that they're showing you that the thread should go pretty much all the way down to the end. So we just have to keep screwing this in. And I just got to keep checking and make sure that that is going in. Which it has. So there we go. There is one of our dampers in place. So now we just need to attach it and put the rubber boot on. So for the rubber boot, you can see that they want you to pretty much grease this up completely, which I partly can get, because what's going to happen is it's going to go into the screw that we just screwed in to the cylinder. And it's interesting, the design for this. So I'll just get it all lubed up. And then we're going to take this and put that in the hole. Just clean my finger off here. And then we're going to grab one of the top pieces, and you can see that there is a hole on one part and a hole there. That's going to go into there, and it doesn't move because it kind of fits into that slot, and you can see there's a notch on the back side. And then we're going to take one of these BA8 screws, put that in, and screw it in. Got to hold it a bit more properly before the spring goes flying everywhere. There we go. So there we go. There we have one complete. And it feels a bit better. When it was just the metal shaft, the damper shaft in there, it didn't seem to move very smoothly. But with those bits of plastic, or I should say the rubber tubing in there, this actually feels a lot more solid. So it must be sliding up and down in that tube to make this work much, much better. So there is one. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the other one, and then we'll do one of the rear dampers. So I went ahead and built one of the rear shocks, and you can see that that's quite a bit different just in terms of like the spring tension. So there's a lot more travel, suspension travel with that one versus this. But this is put together just a little bit differently in terms of how you would hold it, which might be easier for you. What we're going to do is let's put in our damper shaft and this into the bigger one, and then we're going to need to get our spring, and then we're going to need to tighten it down into this blue piece. But what I have found is it's a little harder to hold than when we did it before. So first of all, I will show you getting it in, which actually that part wasn't too bad. So it's going in, but what's going to happen is it's going to be harder to hold this because this screw feels like it's going in a little bit further. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the set of pliers using the flat and then screwing it in, because it's going to be a lot easier to hold and you'll have a lot more leverage doing this. And you will still screw it in all the way, but it's going to be a lot easier than trying to manually hold it in. Okay, and I'm at the end. Yeah, so there we go. That one is done, and you can see the way that's sitting. They'll be identical. So what we're going to do now is we grab our rubber tubing, and I've already pre-cut it. So we'll just lube it up. And I've kind of been liberal with this too, because with it being the suspension, I kind of want to make sure that nothing's going to be binding, so I don't mind putting on a bit more. Because what's going to happen is the screw that's on the inside is actually going to be running up and down this. So we'll put that in. I'm just going to wipe my hands of all the excess grease. And once again, find that hole, mark, grab the screw, and lock it in. Now, what I found with this before is it gets kind of slimy as you're holding it anyway, so I've been wrapping it around with the paper towel, and then be able to grab it as solid as I can and then start screwing it in. It's a lot easier to hold. And there we go, screw is at the end. So there is our rear shocks, and there are the front shocks. So step 14 is now done. So now we can move on to step 15, which is attaching the rear dampers.